I spent my whole life trying to earn my family's attention. I studied hard, stayed out of trouble, and even won the highest academic award in school, but when the night came to celebrate, no one showed up. Not my mom, not my stepdad, not even my little sister. I stood alone on stage while other families clapped for their kids. I thought that was the worst part, until I found the old, rusted key hidden in my stepdad's desk drawer. That key opened more than just a lock. It opened a door to secrets my family never wanted me to find. Every memory I thought was real started to twist into something else. I wasn't just the invisible daughter. I was something else entirely. Now, I'm uncovering the truth about who I am, and why they've been keeping me in the dark all these years. Every answer I find pulls me deeper into a past I never knew I was part of. And once I turn that final corner, there's no way back. I ironed my dress twice. It wasn't even wrinkled, but I kept pressing the same spot, trying to keep my hands busy. My palms were sweating. My speech was folded in my purse, rehearsed 100 times. This was the night. After all the years of being the quiet one, the responsible one, the invisible one, I was finally going to be seen. The award ceremony was for top academic excellence. Out of over 200 students, they chose me. Me. And the school made a big deal out of it, inviting parents, speeches, a fancy dinner. I even had a seat at the head table. Principal Harris said it was tradition for the winner's family to come up on stage at the end, to present the award. There were going to be pictures, a spotlight, my name announced over the speakers. I told my mom about it weeks ago. I wrote the date on the calendar. I left reminders on the fridge. She said she'd be there. She promised. Even nodded when I showed her the invitation. My stepdad just grunted and didn't look up from his phone. That was normal. And my sister, Lily, she just asked if there'd be free food. So when I walked on stage that night, heart pounding, eyes scanning the crowd, I was sure I'd see them. Somewhere. Maybe near the back, maybe even standing in the aisle. But they weren't there. I smiled through it. Took the award from the principal's hands and gave my speech, though my voice shook halfway through. The applause felt like static in my ears. Everyone clapped. Except the 3 people who were supposed to, stood on the sidewalk for an hour after it ended, watching other students laugh with their families, taking pictures with flowers, hugging tight. I kept checking my phone. Nothing. No missed calls. No texts. Not even a message asking how it went. At 10:42 p.m., I finally walked home. The house was dark. The TV was on in the living room, and my stepdad was asleep in his recliner. Empty beer cans on the table. My mom was in the kitchen, wiping the counter like she always did when she was avoiding something. Lily was on her phone, earphones in. Legs up on the couch like nothing mattered. Nobody looked up. I stood there for a full minute, holding my plaque. The gold was still warm from my hands. "Hey," I said, voice small. "I won." My mom turned halfway, gave me that distracted smile she uses when she's too tired to pretend she cares. "That's nice, honey. Put it somewhere safe." "That's nice. That's what you say about a sunset or a new recipe. Not your daughter's biggest moment." I went upstairs and shut the door. I didn't cry. Not right away. I stared at the plaque. Then I threw it under the bed. I didn't want to see it again. The next day, I decided to skip school. I said I had a stomach ache. Nobody questioned it. I stayed in bed, scrolling through photos other students had posted. One by one, I deleted every comment I'd left on their posts. I didn't want to exist in their celebration either. At noon, I got up to get some water. That's when I noticed the drawer in my stepdad's office was slightly open. He never leaves it open. Something about it made me pause. Maybe it was the way the light caught the edge of something metallic. Curiosity broke through my numbness. I pulled the drawer open all the way. Inside, under a pile of old receipts and tools, was a small, rusted key tied to a red ribbon. It wasn't just the key itself that made my stomach twist, it was the envelope beside it. My name was written on the front in handwriting I didn't recognize, and the paper was yellowed, like it had been sitting there for years. I picked up the key. It was heavier than I expected. Something told me this key wasn't meant for me to find. And yet, somehow, it was. I looked back at the door, listened for footsteps upstairs, and slowly opened the envelope. What I read inside made me sit down on the floor. My hands were shaking. My heart started racing in a way that felt completely unfamiliar, not like nerves. Like fear, because the note inside wasn't signed by anyone I knew, and it said, "When the time comes, go to the cabin. Use the key. But don't trust them, not even your mother." The cabin, we had one, but no one ever talked about it. It was my grandfather's, apparently my mom's father, who died before I was born. I'd only ever heard it mentioned in passing, and even then, it was in the kind of hushed tone reserved for things better left alone. Remember asking about it once when I was little. We were in the car, passing a dirt road that led deep into the woods. "What's down there?" I asked. Why Mom's face tightened. "Just an old place. Nothing for you to worry about." And that was it. The topic vanished like smoke, but now, sitting on the floor of my stepdad's office, holding this key and a letter that warned me not to trust my own mother, I realized something I hadn't let myself consider before. Maybe my entire life was built on carefully constructed lies. That afternoon, I pretended everything was normal. I placed the key and the note inside my school backpack and zipped it shut. I made myself a sandwich, ate dinner with my family, nodded when my mom asked how I was feeling. She didn't bring up the award. Not even once. The next morning, I told them I was going to school. Instead, I caught the bus halfway across town, got off near the outskirts, and walked the rest of the way to the woods. Hadn't been out there in years, but I remembered the road. It felt strange walking it alone, like entering a memory that didn't belong to me. The trees got thicker the farther I went. The dirt beneath my shoes grew softer, spongy. The path narrowed into something less like a road and more like a trail animals had made, and then I saw it. The cabin stood crooked, half swallowed by vines and shadows. It looked abandoned, but not broken. Like someone had left it in a hurry, expecting to return but never did. Reached into my backpack, pulled out the key, and approached the door. The lock was old, rusted, but the key fit perfectly. It clicked with a sound that echoed louder than it should have. I hesitated, hand on the doorknob. Something inside me whispered that once I crossed this threshold, I'd never see my life the same way again. I turned the knob. The air inside was stale and thick. Dust coated every surface, but everything was still intact. The furniture, the pictures on the walls, a coat still hanging by the door. It was like someone had just stepped out and never came back. I walked slowly, taking in every detail. A wooden rocking chair sat in the corner. A fireplace with ashes still inside. A stack of books on the table, untouched for years. Then I saw the photo. It was framed, sitting on the mantel. A woman who looked exactly like me, standing beside a man I didn't recognize. She had my eyes, my mouth, even the same slope to her nose. But I knew it wasn't my mother. She was younger, different. The date on the bottom said 1999, was born in 2007, wasn't possible. I pulled the photo down, turned it over. There was something scribbled on the back, "To Anna, always. You'll find her again someday." Anna. That was my mother's name. But she never talked about her past. Not really. Not about her parents, or her siblings, if she had any. Every time I asked, she'd brush it off with a vague answer. "It's complicated. It doesn't matter anymore." I sat down on the couch, heart racing. My fingers tightened around the frame. This woman wasn't my mother, but looked exactly like me. Then who was she? That's when I heard it. A creak outside the window. Then another. Someone was out there. I ducked low, peering through the cracked curtain. A figure standing in the trees. Watching the cabin, not moving. Not speaking. Just standing. I dropped the curtain and backed away. My mind raced. Did someone follow me? How long had they been there? I didn't wait to find out. I stuffed the photo in my backpack, ran to the door, locked it behind me, and sprinted down the path. My lungs burned. My feet slipped on the dirt. I didn't stop until I reached the road again, where the forest opened. Up and the light felt safe again. I called an Uber with shaking hands. I didn't even look back to see if the figure was still there. When I got home, I went straight to my room and locked the door, and then I did something I never thought I'd do. I searched for the woman in the photo, facial recognition software, online ancestry forums, reverse image searches. Anything I could find. It took hours. But when I finally got a hit, it wasn't what I expected. The woman in the photo wasn't just anyone. She was reported missing in 2006, and her name wasn't Anna. It was Rachel Matthews, and according to the record I found, she had a child. A daughter born in 2007. I didn't sleep that night. The face in the photo wouldn't leave me. Rachel Matthews. Missing since 2006. The woman who looked exactly like me was not my mother, and yet, in some twisted way, maybe she was. I lay in bed with my laptop glowing against the darkness, reading everything I could find about her. The records were old, most of the articles archived, buried deep in corners of the internet no one visits anymore. But I found them. Rachel had disappeared in late September, just 2 months before I was born, and no one knew where she went. Her car was found abandoned near a lake, purse still inside. No signs of foul play. Just gone. The articles described her as a bright, gentle woman, engaged to be married, a promising future, and then one sentence stopped me cold. Rachel Matthews was last seen visibly pregnant, approximately 8 months along, according to neighbors. My breath caught. I read it again. 8 months pregnant. In 2006, I was born. In 2007, that couldn't be a coincidence. It just couldn't, and that's when the thought hit me, the one that made my heart slam against my ribs so hard I thought it might break. What if I'm the baby? What if Rachel Matthews is my real mother? The idea was too big to hold in my head all at once. It didn't just change things, it destroyed them. It made my entire life feel like a borrowed costume. I had to know the truth. I needed something concrete. Something that couldn't be erased or explained away. I waited until everyone left the house the next morning. My mom had a shift at the clinic. My stepdad went to the hardware store. Lily had soccer practice. As soon as I was alone, I went into their bedroom. The drawers were locked. But I remembered where the key was, taped to the back of the bathroom cabinet. I'd seen it once when I was 10 and never forgot. My hands were shaking as I turned the key in the top drawer. Papers. Receipts. A few old cards. Then, under a layer of tax forms, a folder marked private. Inside were adoption records. My name was there, typed neatly at the top. But the date of the adoption was April 2007, 4 months after my birth. That shouldn't have made sense. If my mom had given birth to me, why would there be adoption papers? My heart dropped as I read further. The biological mother's name was blacked out. But under notes, someone had written by hand, transferred from state custody after mother's disappearance. Emergency adoption approved. I wasn't just adopted, I was part of a case, and someone, maybe my stepdad, maybe even my mom, had gone to great lengths to keep it buried. I put everything back exactly where I found it, relocked the drawer, and walked out of the room in a daze. I couldn't stay in that house. Not knowing what I knew now, I went back to the cabin. I don't even remember how I got there. I just remember running, heart racing, hands clenched so tight around that rusted key I could feel the edges digging into my skin. When I arrived, the place felt different. Someone had been there, a shoe print in the dirt by the front step. A piece of fabric caught on the porch rail that hadn't been there before. I unlocked the door, went inside, and locked it behind me. Everything looked the same, except now, I was looking for something specific. Answers. I searched every drawer, every closet. I went into the attic, then the crawlspace. Dust and cobwebs everywhere. But finally, in a wooden box behind the fireplace, I found it. A stack of letters. Dozens of them, all addressed to Anna, all signed Rachel. They weren't dated, but they told a story. Rachel had been afraid of someone, of being watched, of losing her child. The last letter was barely legible, the ink smeared like it had been written in a rush. It said, "If anything happens to me, protect her. She's everything." I sat on the floor for hours, trying to put the pieces together. Had my mother, Anna, known Rachel? Had she taken me in after Rachel disappeared? And if so, was it really to protect me? Or to hide something darker? That night, I didn't go home. I stayed at the cabin, wrapped in a blanket I found in the closet, staring at the letters until the sunrise bled through the window, and when I checked my phone the next morning, I saw the message that made my blood turn to ice. "You shouldn't have gone there." No name. No number, just that. I stared at the message until my hands went numb. "You shouldn't have gone there." The screen glared back at me like an accusation. No name, no contact ID, just a message that knew exactly where I'd been. The cabin. The place no one had mentioned for years, the place tied to a woman I wasn't supposed to know existed. I tried to reply, but the message disappeared. Not just deleted, it vanished, like it had never been there. I checked my call log, my recent texts. Nothing. It was as if the phone had imagined it, but I hadn't. I felt watched. Exposed. I turned off my phone completely and buried it in my backpack. The letters from Rachel were still spread across the floor. I looked at them with fresh eyes. One of them, one I hadn't noticed before, was shorter than the rest. Just a few lines. "Anna, if you have to take her, you have to raise her right. She can never know what he did. She can never know what I found. Who was he? My stepdad, someone else. I knew I needed help, but I didn't trust anyone in that house. Not after the lies. Not after pretending to be my parents. Pretending to be my family. So I made a decision. I packed everything, every letter, every scrap of paper, the photo, even the envelope with the key, and left the cabin. I took a bus across town to the library and opened a private browser. No phones, no Wi-Fi tracking. I searched for Rachel Matthews again, but this time I added something new, the name of my stepfather. Nothing. At first, then I searched for both names together, Rachel Matthews and Douglas Carter. One result. Just one. A blurry photo from a community college newsletter dated 2003. Rachel was smiling, holding a certificate. And next to her, arm around her shoulder, was a younger version of the man I'd called my stepdad my entire life. My heart nearly stopped. He knew her. He knew her before she disappeared. And he never told anyone. What was he doing in that photo? Were they friends? A couple? Enemies? Was he the reason she vanished? I printed the photo and shoved it into my bag. My mind was racing, spiraling, trying to make sense of a puzzle where all the edges kept shifting. I couldn't go home. Not yet. So I did the next thing that felt right. I went to the police, but I didn't walk in the front door. I waited outside. For someone specific, Officer Mendez. I remembered her from a school safety talk. She seemed kind. Honest. Not the kind of cop who brushed kids off. When she finally stepped out, I approached her. "Can I talk to you? Privately?" I asked as she looked at me, brows furrowed. "What's going on?" I think I was kidnapped. As a baby. And my real mother might be missing. That got her attention. We sat down inside a quiet room. I showed her the photo. The adoption papers. The letters. I told her everything about the cabin, the key, the threatening message. She listened. Took notes. Asked questions I didn't know how to answer. Then she said something that chilled me. There's no public record of your adoption. I blinked. What do you mean? I mean, if this paperwork is real, someone went to great lengths to keep it off the books. This doesn't match any official state files. My stomach turned. So my adoption was unofficial. Possibly illegal, possibly. A cover-up. She told me to stay somewhere safe and gave me her number. She said she'd look into it, quietly. I thanked her and walked out feeling like I was floating through someone else's life. That evening, I didn't go home. I went to the only person I thought might tell me the truth, Lily. She was only a few years younger than me, but she was smart. Observant. And she never looked at our parents the same way I did. I waited outside her school, caught her before she got on the bus. Hey, I said. I need to ask you something. Something serious. She looked at me, confused. Are you okay? Did Mom ever talk to you about when I was born? Lily hesitated. Shifted her backpack. Not really. I mean, I always thought it was weird. There's no baby pictures of you. No stories. Nothing. I nodded slowly. And Doug. Do you know if he knew someone named Rachel Matthews? Her face changed. You mean that woman from the photo in the attic? I froze. What photo? I found it once, years ago. I thought it was you, but Mom said it was someone else. She got mad and took it away. Told me never to mention it again. She paused. Why are you asking all this? I looked at her, truly. Looked at her, and realized something I hadn't before. She didn't know either. She wasn't in on it. She was just a kid who'd grown up in the same house of silence. I think she lied to both of us, I said. About everything. Before Lily could respond, her phone buzzed. She pulled it out. Her face went pale. What is it? I asked. She turned the screen toward me. A message. Same number. You're not safe with her. She doesn't know who she really is. The message shook me, but not as much as Lily's expression. She was pale, frozen, the phone trembling slightly in her hand. You're not safe with her. She doesn't know who she really is. I read it again. This wasn't just someone threatening us. This was someone watching us. Someone who believed. They knew something we didn't. And the worst part? They weren't entirely wrong. I didn't know who I really was. Not anymore. Who keeps texting you? Lily asked. I hesitated. I don't know. But they've been following me since I went to the cabin. She blinked. You went there? I nodded. That's where I found the photo. And the letters. Rachel wrote them to Mom. We stood in silence until I realized I was dragging her into something she didn't choose. I took her hand. Go home. Say nothing. I'll call you soon. Lily nodded slowly, worry in her eyes. Then she got on the bus and disappeared into the traffic like a ghost swallowed by routine. Had one place left to go. That evening, I walked into our house like nothing had changed. The smell of garlic and onions from dinner hung heavy in the air. My mom was at the sink, humming softly. My stepdad was in the living room, eyes glued to the news. I walked past them both and headed straight to the garage. The attic access was in there. I'd seen Doug pull it down before. It creaked as I opened it. Dust rained down. My heart thundered. I climbed up fast, careful not to make too much noise. The attic was hot and dark, filled with old boxes, broken furniture, forgotten things. I used my phone's flashlight and scanned the space, then I saw it. A trunk. Wooden. Locked, but the same key that opened the cabin clicked it open like it belonged. Inside were files. Photos. Even a camcorder. The first photo I picked up made my blood run cold. It was Rachel. In the hospital. Holding a newborn. Me, and standing beside her was Doug. He wasn't smiling, he wasn't even looking at the baby, he was looking at Rachel, and his face was twisted in something like rage. I flipped through more photos. One showed Rachel arguing with someone outside the cabin. Another showed the same man who now sat downstairs watching the news, only younger, holding what looked like a court document. There were letters too. Ones he'd written to someone named Greg, his brother. The letters spoke of removing a problem, getting control, and finally, if Anna doesn't agree, we'll make it happen anyway. I dropped the letter. I finally understood Doug and Anna had taken me. After Rachel disappeared, maybe because she was forced to disappear, he used his connection to Anna to cover it up. Maybe Anna helped him out of fear. Maybe out of love. Maybe both, but I wasn't adopted by accident, I was stolen. I sat there, surrounded by proof, and for a long moment, I couldn't breathe. Then I heard the footsteps, was in the garage. The attic floor creaked as I reached up and shut the trunk. I backed into the shadows just as the attic door began to creak open. He climbed halfway, stopped, and said, "You shouldn't be up here." His voice was calm. Too calm. I stayed silent. "You've been digging where you shouldn't. Going places you shouldn't go." I still didn't answer. Then, almost gently, he said, "Your mother doesn't know everything either. She was protecting you." I stepped out from the shadows, trunk key still in my fist. "From you?" He didn't flinch. Just looked at me like I was a wild animal, cornered and confused. "From the truth. Some things are too heavy to carry." I stepped closer. "Then help me carry it," I said. His expression changed. Just for a second. Then he stepped down and disappeared into the garage. I waited until I heard the door shut. I left the attic with the camcorder and the files. That night, I didn't go to sleep. I uploaded everything. Every letter. Every photo. Every file. I sent copies to Officer Mendez. I created a private backup online, and then I recorded my own video. I told the story. The award night. The key. The cabin. Rachel. Everything I uploaded it anonymously. It didn't take long. 2 days later, there was a knock at our door. Police. Warrant in hand, they took Doug away. My mother cried, not the tears of someone surprised, but of someone exhausted from years of pretending not to know. Lily stood beside me, holding my hand. Her eyes weren't wet. Just wide open. I still don't know exactly what happened to Rachel. Whether she ran, or whether someone helped her disappear. But I know now, without doubt, that I wasn't supposed to be part of this family. I was supposed to be lost, and I wasn't. I found myself, piece by piece, and the most twisted part, if they had just come to my award night, if they had shown up, smiled, clapped for me like they were supposed to, maybe I never would have found the key, maybe I never would have known who I really was, and maybe that's exactly what they were afraid of. If this were your story, would you forgive them? To drop your thoughts below. I want to know what you would have done.